just a series of lazy daisy stitches as well. So we're going to come from the back of our work, about on the side of the rose, about in the middle on the side, and leaving the string on the back. We're going to be doing 7 lazy daisy stitches here. And what I like to do is start the first one. You're going to kind of come up on the side of your rose, like you're wrapping it around the top edge. So that's your first one. And then come out the same hole that we started at. And we're going to do another one on the other side the same way, the opposite side. Lock it down and come out the center again. And then we're going to repeat that twice more on each side. So for the second one, you're going to come out about a stitch or so away from where the first one was. Lock it down. Again from the center. So that's 2 on each side. I'm going to do a third one on each side, and then we'll end with one right in the middle. Oops. And then the last one right in the middle. So now we've done 7 little lazy daisies coming out from our rose, and you would repeat that on the other side of the rose as well. And one thing I think I forgot to mention is I lined up my roses straight down from the lazy daisies that we worked on top. So if you pin out where you want your lazy daisy stitches around the top, then you're just going to work straight down, or as straight as you can down from that. And again, if you want to be really precise, you could like measure it out and pin it. And mine would have probably been a little bit more perfectly placed, but again, I'm not perfect with this. So you could pin it out, or you could just eyeball it and put it down from there, but it's lined up from that. After that, what I do in the sweater is I do little French knots in between each one in the lighter green color. I'm not going to show you that because I already showed you the French knots. And then the final step is to do the stem in the middle. So what I do for that is I actually held the dark and the light green yarns together. So you're going to get them to measure the same length with both of the yarns. Thread it through your needle. And the first step is just to do a simple chain stitch, which is a series of lazy daisy stitches that are all attached to one another, and it forms a chain. So you just start from one end and go to the other. You're going to come out of your work. You're going to loop around just like we did with our lazy daisy and come out. And catch that stitch. So that's 1. Instead of anchoring it down like we did with the lazy daisy, we're going to just make another one. So we're going to enter in from where we just came out, come back up again through our fabric, and catch the next one. So we basically just made 2 in a row, and it forms a chain. We're going to work that all the way across the middle, and I just lined mine up right in the middle of the stitches we previously worked. And again, you can kind of play it by ear, or just kind of judge how long you want them to be. These ones are a little bit bigger, but you could do them like every 2 stitches and make them smaller if you want. Again, you can be as precise or as laid back as you like. You're just going to go all the way through. This is creating that center stem line. And on your actual sweater, it's going to be a curve around. It's not going to be a straight line because it's curved to fit on your body. So you're just gonna, that's why we save this for last, because it goes right in between both of the things that we already made, like the rows. So we have the lazy daisies and these, and it just goes straight down the middle. Now the last step is the leaves, and you're going to take the darker color yarn, just one strand of it. And what I did is I did the leaves on the outside edges are both going the same direction this way. You would have the same thing down here. And I just thought it would look interesting if they were going the opposite direction. You could do it the same way if you wanted, it's up to you. But wherever you want to work them, you're going to come up from your fabric. And we're going to be doing, again, just a simple lazy daisy stitch. It's going to come out at a 45-degree angle. And we're going to be doing one inside of another. So the first one that you do, you want it to be a little bit larger because you're going to have to fit another one inside of it. So there's our first one. We anchor it down. And make sure that it's open enough because we're going to be fitting another one inside. Sometimes they kind of flatten. Just kind of open it up a little bit. We're going to come up through that same hole. This time, sorry. Okay. This time we're going to be doing a smaller one on the inside. So enter that same hole again. Come out. You want to come out a little bit before the end of the other stitch that you just made so that it fits right inside nicely, and then you're going to tuck it down, secure that stitch, and you still should be inside the first lazy daisy that you made. So you can kind of see it. It's like one stitch within another, and basically that just makes it a little bit thicker looking. You could, if you wanted to, you could just use like 2 strands of this, I suppose, and just do one. But I think it would just look thicker. I like the layered look of it, how it's 2 separate ones. But you're welcome to change it up however you like. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. A big lazy daisy with a smaller one inside. And anchor it down. And you're basically going to just do those along the whole way. So I like to do, depending how big your stitches are, when I was doing my sweater, I did every 2 chain stitches, but these are a lot bigger. So I'm just going to do 1. You'll set up to do the next one. And I always did the same direction going across, but you could switch it up and do altering directions if you wanted. It's really totally up to you. This is just how I did it. And we're going to do a little one in between. Oops. So you're going to work that again all the way around the yoke of your sweater. So once you've done your swatch completely, and you've done, I only did half because for the sake of time, but once you've finished your whole swatch and you feel like you have a hang for how the stitches are and the tensioning, you can go ahead and get your sweater out. And when you have your sweater, you're going to have the 2 lifelines in, just like on your swatch. One will be up here, one will be down here. And you want to go ahead and start with the outer edges first, working, on the inside of that lifeline. Once you get these in, then you can take those lifelines out if you want. You just pull that thread out. You only need that in to figure out how to set it up. Because on the back edge, here's the back neckline, because of our short rows, there's a curve. So that line is really just to help you know where to place it. Sorry. So once you have those in, again, you're going to go through and do the lazy daisies up top, and it's helpful to pin out where you want them. I did a total of 12. You can change that up if you want. I knit the size 40-inch bust, which I think is size 2 in the pattern, and I did 12 of them, but depending on your size or how big or small you want to make them, you can definitely alter that. Once you go ahead and do that, oops, I'm sorry, I lined it up wrong. When I originally did the pattern, I wanted these to line up, but I see now that when I went through and did it again, I wanted it staggered, so forgive me for that. So when you go through, if you already did your swatch, sorry, but when you go through on your sweater, I staggered them. So we line up the roses in between the empty spaces in between these flowers. So I'm sorry about that. So you want to line them up and stagger them, and then you do your little French knots, and then you finish with the vine in the middle. Sorry again about that, but hopefully you just did it on your swatch like I suggested and you didn't mess up your sweater. But again, you can go and you can do the exact same yoke that I did, or feel free to experiment and play around and do something a little bit differently. But I hope that this was helpful for you. Again, I'll go over the stitch names in case you need to look up other videos. Hopefully I did a good enough job explaining, but if I didn't for some reason, we started with the stem stitch, and then these are just little like back stitches. And then we have the lazy daisy stitches, French knots, and then this is like a spider wheel, I believe it's called. Yeah, or you can look for something like rose stitch if you had trouble with that. I think it's called like a spider wheel. But so yeah, I hope that's helpful. If you have questions, feel free to leave me a comment below, and if I can clarify anything, I will definitely try to do that for you. And I'll just show you a little closer up now so you can see how it looks on the whole sweater. And again, the spacing's totally up to you. The main thing to remember is to go slow, take your time. And then the one thing I didn't mention is, see this mess here on the back? You want to weave in your ends as you work, ideally. And since we're not weaving in like the same as the main color, you'll take your contrast color and you just want to weave it like under some of the stitches that were made, just a few different ways. But you don't want to catch any of this white, the main color, you know, because if you were to catch that loop like that, then on the right side of your fabric, you would see the yarn. So you just want to be mindful to only weave it in underneath like the lines that you created. And ideally, you would do that after each step. So once you do the top vine, turn it inside out and weave in your ends. See, I didn't even do all of mine, I'm bad. But you should weave them in as you go because it can tangle on the wrong side of your work, and then you have just a big mess and it's more difficult to do later. So I would recommend finish one section, weave in your ends, finish one flower, weave in your ends. Now you can carry the yarn from one flower to a next if you want, but you will have that strand back there. I think the more proper way to do it would probably be do one and then weave it in, and then do the next, weave it in. With the French knots, you really need to just like carry it along the back of the work because it gets to be, there'd be nowhere to weave it in there. So you can carry that one. Same with down here. Like with the red roses though, I would suggest not carrying it because that's a really long distance to carry it. But for things that are closer, you could if you wanted to. Okay, so that should be it. But if you have any questions, definitely leave me a message, and I hope that that's helpful enough to get you started on your boho wreath sweater. Bye.